This is the FM Gold channel of All India Radio. In the program News Analysis, now we bring you a discussion on GST, a milestone in economic reform. The participants are Arun Goyal, Additional Secretary, GST Council, and Santosh Tiwari, journalist.
With the historical midnight launch of Goods and Services Tax by President Pranab Mukherjee and Prime Minister Narendra Modi, now this tax reform is a reality. Goyal sir, when the announcement was made today, Prime Minister said it is just like changing your specs. So there would be some initial irritation, but it will settle down very quickly. What kind of ambience was there? You were there in Parliament Central Hall. What kind of ambience was there when you saw it from so close?
I think it was a great historic movement, and Central Hall was full, packed to that capacity, and it's a really historic reform, very bold reform, because after this, the way the business is done in India will change. I think for whether a business doing the manufacturing activity, whether they are a service provider, it will change. And not only the businesses, the reform will affect each and every stakeholder, whether it's a consumer, whether it's a transporter, whether it's a service provider. So it's a very historic step that was taken, and it was great to be over there and be part of the history.
The Prime Minister said people will remember Goods and Services Tax also by the name Good and Simple Tax. So good and simple part in terms of simplicity is quite understandable. But do you think in effect on ground from today onwards, the way we used to handle indirect taxes, it will turn or it has already turned into good and simple tax?
It has been discussed number of times that it subsumes number of indirect taxes. 17 indirect taxes that have been subsumed into it, and other than that there are more than 20 cesses which are also being included in one goods and service tax. So to that extent, earlier a businessman had to deal with different tax authorities, he had to fill different forms, he had to maintain different books of accounts for different taxes. Now all that will be changed, and in fact they have to maintain only one record and also file a simple return for all the taxes together, and that's a goods and services tax, the simple tax. So I personally feel that it's going to be very, very simple tax, and it good for the reason that it has a capacity of allowing the seamless flow of input credit. That is, every stage a person would only be paying tax on the value that he is adding. There will not be any cascading of taxes, which will ultimately benefit the consumer, and our goods will become more competitive internationally, which will attract more foreign direct investment into India. I think it will give a flip to our economic growth. It will lead to employment. I think it's a very, very good step which has been taken.
Another thing which Prime Minister Narendra Modi and also Finance Minister Arun Jaitley mentioned was, and which is a very critical thing in bringing in GST the way it has come, because very few would have thought last year or even 6 months back that the government would be or the GST Council would be able to meet July 1 deadline. But it has been met. So it was a challenge, and this challenge has been met very effectively in a very good manner. So both of them mentioned that the kind of effort which was put not only by Team India basically, states and also center, the officials who calculated the rates, the officials who put in all their efforts to come to the rates or to decide on the rates and to decide on the framework, both of them said that this is a commendable job. From here, I believe that your next step would begin. Why? Because there is still apprehension that some commodities or certain items will have to face price rise. So how this challenge is going to be taken up by the council from here?
Firstly, in the initial process of fixing the taxes or fitting the goods into different tax slabs, a care has been taken that the slab in which the goods are fixed, it's almost comparable to what is the present incidence of tax. To say any good, just we talk of what was happening before GST, it used to attract tax on manufacturing, which was excise duty, and then there was VAT. And then there were other intermediate taxes. It could be, if the goods were moving from one state to another, it could be CST. Then there were entry taxes in some state, and there was also a concept of cascading. So if we take together, this tax was calculated what is the present incidence, and then in the council it was deliberated for each and every good, and then it was fixed into a particular slab. Yes, there could be a case, since we had only 4 slabs in which the goods were to be fitted, it was 5%, 12%, 18%, 28%. So there could be a possibility that in case the present incidence is falling in 24.5% or 25%, it fitted into 28%. And similarly, in case the good is falling at say 16%, it has been fitted into 18%. But by and large, I would like to say that Council has been very considerate for the weaker sections, for the common man, and utmost care has been taken that the goods of mass consumption which are used by the poorer sections or by the middle class people, they are kept in the slab of 0% or 5%, and few goods which are of mass consumption or of used by the middle class, they are in 12% bracket. Essentially, most of the goods fall into these brackets. That is why I feel that it is not going to be inflationary at all. Maybe there are few luxury goods which are in 28%. In those goods also, the present incidence of tax is much higher than that. So it's not that we have brought all the goods into 28%, but in fact, if you see even in today's newspapers, many of the, say, big supermarkets, they have come up with an advertisement saying that they are going to offer goods which are cheaper than before GST. So I think it's just a matter of settling down and goods would become cheaper and the benefits of GST would be visible to all.
Why I am asking you this question is for the simple reason that supposedly the government or the GST council or the states or the authorities, if they come to know that there is one segment where there is price rise, the people working in the segment, they are utilizing or exploiting GST and raising the prices of their commodities. In the initial phases when the GST has been launched only a few hours back, it would be very difficult to take strict action, although you have anti-profiteering law under the GST ambit, under the GST statute. This might pose a challenge. So if this kind of a challenge you have in today's context in next few weeks or probably in next few months, then how can the government or the GST council handle it?
You have very rightly said that under section 171, we have this provision of anti-profiteering, where it has been said that in case you are getting input tax credit or the rates have been reduced, the commensurate benefit should be passed on the consumer. So that is the legal side. I think the other thing which is very, very important is the consumer education. And for that, very concentrated attempt is being made and lot of publicity is going on through all media, whether it is social media, whether it's a print media or electronic media. And we are trying to convey to the public that how the rates have come down, trying to compare with what was the earlier incidence of rate and what is the present incidence of the rate. And I think the consumer itself, they will build enough pressure against the suppliers or the producer or the traders that they will not be able to charge anything higher from them.
Another thing, there might be some concern, but those concerns are taken care of because registrations had begun earlier for GST, etc. and GST number has been made very easy. What about those people? You have seen that we always do things at the very last moment. So there would be many people who have not taken GST numbers and there might be some hamper-scamper for taking GST number or those kind of things. So from GST council side or from the government side, the administration side, what kind of efforts are now being made to ensure that there is no such chaos or there is no such problem?
Firstly, we have made it very clear that even a person has a provisional registration number, that is that he has not been able to complete the registration process and fill all the columns of the form and get the certificate. So even with the provisional registration, he has legally 90 days with him to complete the process. And similarly, for the new people, the website was opened from 25th of June. And we have seen large number of registrations which have taken place and the process is getting completed. And in case there are few people and even there are new registrants, there also the law provides that they can complete the registration process within a month and they can carry on with the business as usual.
An initial few months or initial few weeks in particular, there would be adjusting time. Prime Minister also said that GST will take little bit of time to adjust. Not that much as people are expecting, but at least few weeks time to adjust. So during that period and also in coming few months, say till September or so, would there be a liberal atmosphere in terms of filing or in terms of payment of taxes, etc.? Or GST has now started in a manner it will start, you had thought, from the very beginning?
The government has already taken step in this direction, and rather than filing what is the required return, a simplified return has been made, which we are calling GSTR 3B, So that has to be filed in the month of August, which is a very, very simple return and which will be filed for the whatever business you have done for the month of July. So that care has already been taken, and I think that would be enough time for people to adjust to it. And in the meanwhile, yesterday even the GST, and they have already released a very simplified offline utility in which whatever invoices are there of the business or whatever other transactions are there, they can very easily be filed. And once you have done offline on this utility, then you can load that very simply on the GST network. So I think government has been very sensitive to it, and we are making sure that a lot of hand holding is there. All the ministries have been made very aware of it. They have GST help desk. Here I would like to inform that the kind of other efforts that are being made. Firstly, in the CBC, we are having CBC Mitra Help Desk, which is a toll-free helpline number is available, 1800-1200-232. And then GSTN, in case you are having any technical problems with regard to registration, GSTN has their own help desk. They have email helpdesk@gst.gov.in, and they also have a phone number of 0124-4688-999. Other than that, there are other facilities which are available in different CBC offices. People can go over there. Suvidha Kendras have been made, and in case person has to do any filing, hand holding would be done, and they would be helped in filing their returns. And also they will be educated in any manner they want.
So basically, in next 2-3 months, government and the GST Council and the states have made plans to help people to basically understand GST and also to abide by the norms which they need to abide. Going forward, how do you see? Jammu and Kashmir is the only state today which has not joined GST from July 1. Finance Minister Arun Jaitley has already requested the Chief Minister that why the state should join GST, because the traders and the businessmen there would be facing problems if the state doesn't join GST. Then West Bengal is other state which was averse to joining GST from July 1. Would these two incidences be creating any problem for overall GST, or it is like these things will get sorted going ahead?
As regards West Bengal, they have already passed their SGST law. They have already notified all the notifications which are required to be notified under the SGST law. So they are very much on the board. So there is no issue as regards West Bengal is concerned. As regards Jammu and Kashmir is concerned, we are very sure that within next few days or maybe 1 or 2 weeks, Jammu and Kashmir would also be joining the GST. So I think there are little issues which are getting sorted out, and they would also become part of the GST. And that is why when Prime Minister spoke, whether from Leh to Lakshadweep or from Ganganagar to Itanagar, we will be having the same tax.
I would like to ask you, GST Council can reduce rates any point of time whenever it wants. And Revenue Secretary Hasmukh Adhia, who is also Secretary to GST Council, he has already said that ideally the rate should be 1. So when do you think this process can be initiated?
I think it's too early to say on that. We have just begun. Earlier been also clarified on a number of occasions that India is a very diverse country with different segments of people, and we have to take care of all segments of people. We cannot have the same rate for a Hawaii chappal and for a Mercedes car. So we have to have different rates, and few slabs will always be there. But yes, the number of slabs can be reduced going forward, but it's too early to say about that.
So GST is now a reality, and this milestone has been achieved by the teamwork of states and also the center. The efforts which have been put in by the officials and also different committees which worked on GST is commendable. 1 year back, one would not have thought that GST would come from July 1, but it has come, and this milestone has been achieved. This is a great achievement by the country as a whole, because the whole world is now watching how India would implement GST. That is such a big reform in terms of both integrating both state and center's indirect taxation and also in terms of bringing in transparency. Thank you very much. Thank you.
You were listening to a discussion on GST, a milestone in economic reform. The participants were Arun Goyal, Additional Secretary, GST Council, and Santosh Tiwari, journalist. This program was produced and presented by the News Services Division of All India Radio. This program is also available on our website, newsonair.nic.in. You may email your opinion about this program at airnsttalks@gmail.com.